She doesn't even go here.
I'm bi, actually.
Excuse me. Could the ugly, untalented gays please report to the principal's office?
Hi, I'm Kurt Hummel, and I'll be auditioning for the role of kicker.
Hey! Hi, I am Luke,
And I'm Alicia.
and you are watching Not So Straight Nerds. Thank you for joining us today. So, first off,
Vibe check. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling a lot of things today. We're recording this on the day of all the Avengers Doomsday announcements. That's what this video is going to be about.
yes.
And we weren't planning on making this video because we didn't know this was going to happen today. But we're very excited. So
Yes.
I feel good. I'm ready to talk. There's a lot to talk about. So yeah, what about you?
I'm a little tired. It's
Fair.
been a bit of a long day, but it's been very exciting because of this announcement, which lasted most of the day.
Like 5 hours
So
or
it's been-
something.
It's been really
long
interesting to see that unfold, especially when we didn't know this was happening today.
Nope.
So it's been a surprising and long day
Yeah.
with a very surprising and long announcement.
Yes.
So for
It
those
was
of
fun though. I liked having time to dissect each character
Yes.
in between.
it's a very interesting
Yeah, I
idea
wonder
and
if
way
they'll
to
do
that.
this next time. Because I have seen that there's still more characters to announce. Officially, that's what I've seen on a couple pages. I don't know. I don't think it's come from a Marvel page, but like some usually reliable news sources I've seen.
Okay.
So we'll see. I wonder if they'll do this again or if they'll do something similar. I don't know. I would kind of be surprised if they did the exact same thing, but
But I mean,
I don't know. I
okay.
think it
So
worked.
before we keep talking, for
Okay.
those who aren't aware what we're talking about,
Yeah.
today
You haven't been on Twitter, I guess.
on Twitter, the Marvel Studios account started a live stream,
Mm-hmm.
and it started showing us very slowly, chair by chair, some of the cast of Avengers Doomsday, which
Yeah.
has officially started filming, I believe, in London.
Yeah, they announced that it officially started filming. I feel like I caught on to it about the third or fourth chair, I guess. They used
Yes.
actual film chairs with
Yep,
the name on
with
the back.
the actors' names.
And they just
on
had
the
a
back.
live stream and they would point it at the most recently revealed chair and then just every now and then
Every 10 to 12 minutes.
yeah,
So
something like that.
and this thing ultimately got a lot of views.
Yeah, it peaked at the very end. It had 10.1 million views.
And I remember we were on there when it was around 4, so
Yeah.
it more than doubled
Mhm.
throughout the stretch of this thing. And this thing lasted for 3.5 hours.
Oh, more than that.
That was
It was
a
4
really-
hours at some point,
Okay.
and then probably by the end, I would say it was around 5 hours. That's what I would guess. I forgot to look at what time it ended on, because they did just end it.
Yeah.
But I think it was 5 hours. So
But it was very
a lot
exciting.
in the middle of a work day,
In
and
the middle of
very
a
little. I
work
think
day.
I woke up this morning to something that said in 8 hours or 10 hours, they're gonna or it was posted 10 hours ago or whatever, saying they're gonna announce something bigger than Doom, and then they started revealing the chairs, and they were like, "That's it," but then they kept going for 5 hours, and then you're like, "Okay, yeah, that's
Okay,
bigger
okay,
than
okay.
Doom," and it was. So I'm excited to talk about it.
So, overall thoughts, I think we both perceive it as a really interesting and definitely unique marketing strategy. Like I said, and I think it's also a really big flex that you can
It
have
is.
10 million people
Watching chairs.
watching chairs.
That's what
watching
it
still
was.
images of a chair for 12 minutes, and then it switches to the next chair for 10
Yep.
minutes.
Yep.
For all afternoon.
And I kept watching. At first I didn't watch this, so I have a list of things that words or phrases that trended on the top 10 and even top 20. I probably missed some because I forgot about it till I don't know, an hour in, and then I was like, I want to look at what's trending right now, and they occupied multiple spots the whole time. I don't know if the biggest number it occupied in the top 10, but I know at some point there was 4 out of 10, probably got 5 or 6
By the
at some
time I
point.
watched it after the end, it covered a lot.
Yeah, and then you look in the top 20 or 30, and there's even more. So yeah, it was. It certainly worked. Whether or not you liked it, it worked. It worked for them.
It's
so
And I think overall, it definitely, clearly, with so many people, there was a huge desire to see who was going to come next.
Yes, and someone made a good point where even though people are complaining, like, you could have just done, like a 5-minute video or whatever. Like, they have it in a compilation at the end, like just one long video. And some people were saying that's all they should have done. But then you would not have near as much discussion on each character. And I guess spoilers, if you haven't seen the casting announcements, there's actually 6 X-Men.
From the original
5 from the
movies.
original, and then Gambit, Channing Tatum, was also added.
Right.
And that garnered a lot of discussion, and some people were saying that probably would have overshadowed some of, like, the more original, like, MCU characters. And I partially agree.
Okay.
So I kind of like the way they did it, just because it kept the discussion for every character, and it kept it for so long instead of just, like a few hours after a 2-minute video, 5-hour live stream, 5-hour discussion. And we're still talking about it. So
I will say, for what's ultimately going to end up being a 2-part story between these 2 movies, very Infinity War and Endgame-esque, it's a lot of characters. And it feels interesting that these are, and remind you, these are the roles that they want us to know going into it. And everyone was thinking that these movies were going to be very, like, cameo heavy, and and that's the thing. I'm sure they still will be.
yeah.
But these are the characters they want to tell us before the movies even started filming.
Yeah.
So that means that at least there's an expectation that these roles are going to be sizable. And this is a lot of characters.
And, like, I can't believe they actually gave us all of those X-Men. I'm actually that still blows my mind. Like, they didn't even want to keep one of them secret. I mean, maybe they still will.
There's a couple not accounted for.
That's true. But, wow, that's just surprising to me that they gave us so much.
And that's another thing about this whole announcement is that ultimately there was only 27 announced.
27.
And the rumor was that it was going to go to 50.
Yes.
And with the chairs that we have, it feels like there's a lot of characters
missing
that should be there because of the characters that are in here.
Yes.
Like, it
and
feels
we'll talk
like
about that as
there's people that are clearly, like, on a team or in a sphere of characters, and there's just 1 or 2, and then it kind of leaves the impression, so what are these characters we last saw them?
Like, we have Ant-Man and no Wasp. We have, what was the one I was thinking of? Well, we have all Fantastic
We have Black
Four.
Panther and
Yes.
M'Baku, but no Nakia or Okoye.
Mm-hmm. And Namor. We have Namor, but not
And Namor.
Okoye or Nakia.
So it's just little stuff like that we'll probably get more in detail with when we start going down this list. But ultimately, it feels like this is not everyone. I was really expecting it to possibly end with a part 1 the later it got, and that we would eventually get a part 2.
Mm-hmm.
But it ends with us seeing Robert Downey Jr. walking in and sitting in his chair.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is all of these characters lead to doom, which I think is interesting.
Although he did do, someone did mention he did like a little like kind of pose.
That's the part 1.
So
he's holding
maybe
up the part
that's
of one.
or part 1, or he's saying like
Secrets.
Or there's more to come basically.
Okay.
Kind of like here
or
it
he
is
said,
for
"Don't
now."
talk about it," and then here we are. And now Robert Downey Jr. is gonna find us.
He's gonna hunt us down. And then I also saw a post. I don't know if it was real or not, but it was RDJ posted something like, "This is an interesting lineup. Surely there can't be more." And then Marvel Studios, like one of the main authorized pages, said like something like it's not, or like there's more to come, or something like that. I forgot word for word what it said.
I feel like it would have been smarter if they gave like the eye emoji.
Or like the emoji. That would have been a good like tie-in. Yeah.
But another thing that I saw, which I think actually makes a lot of sense, because for those who have not seen the list, currently on the Avengers, I would say, or in the Avengers Doomsday Cast, the big groups you see are some of the leads of the more successful movies from Phase 5. Some of the ensemble from Captain America Brave New World.
Yes.
Characters, a lot of the Thunderbolts, 6 out of 7 Thunderbolts.
Well, I guess 5 out of 6, but then they also have Bob
But he's in that
he's
movie.
he's in that little like group, I guess.
And then we have all of the Fantastic Four.
Yes, and then some of the X-Men.
And then the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
However, most of those are from movies that haven't even come out yet.
That's
so
true.
I think the idea for at least this one is, hey, look at all of these characters. Don't you want to know who all of them are before you see this movie? So it feels like it's actually pretty strategic to be like, hey, you want to see these characters before you watch Avengers Doomsday.
Yes.
So with that in mind, I think...
That is really smart, actually.
I think framing that, it makes a lot more sense with who we got.
That
and you
is
got
really
the initial
true.
ones, so there can be conversation of, oh my gosh, is this everyone? I mean, I guess we have some of the characters we would expect.
Right.
But, like, and that discourse of, can this be everyone? Will this be everyone? Will there be more? Right now, with that, especially with that in mind, I feel like eventually we'll get a part 2 in some capacity.
I'm sure
I don't know
it's
if
going to
it'll be
take a
exactly
while,
like
but...
this, but...
And you also raised a good point earlier that they could be picking the characters that they, A, already have contracts for. I saw that somewhere on Twitter. Or 2, the ones that are filming right now. And they could be waiting to film, like, the other sections later with other characters, and maybe that's when they'll kind of solidify those contracts and then announce them.
Yeah, because you look at Infinity War, and there's so many characters that are just not doing their own thing within the realm of the movie that don't have to be there at the same time. Like, there's the Asgardians in space that never need to meet with, say, Captain America and that whole on the Earth population. So it would make sense if they're pulling people out who are filming there now, and people could look at where they are currently and be like, oh, they're in London at the same time as this. I will say that does still bring up the question of, cool, so where's the Wasp? Where's all of these other Wakandan characters? Yeah. And, like, those similar characters. And I guess we will just have to see and kind of just right now go off of what we have.
And I do think it's important to bring back up the reality of some of them might be busy. Some of them might not have agreed on their contracts yet. Like, someone brought up a good point. Elizabeth Olsen probably knows that she's a big deal now. Scarlet Witch is a big deal, and maybe they don't want to pay her such. There's a lot of background things that could be the reason that some characters weren't announced as well. Some people might just not want to come back for whatever reason. I don't know why you wouldn't want to come back to what's probably going to be at least $1 billion movie, but to each their own. And then, again, some people might be busy right now. So there's a lot of background stuff that could explain some missing characters as well. A few people have pointed out that they've noticed that there's only 5 women in this list, and that is pretty disappointing considering
especially
how many...
after that whole point in Endgame where it's highlighting all of the cool female heroes there. It feels weird that it's suddenly taken such a drop back.
And in our list, there's quite a lot of pretty great female heroes that are missing. It's not like there's a lack of them. I mean, I think even when you add them, there's still going to be more men, but there's going to be more than 5 women. So it would be like closer to being even. It could be at least, but it's not. So that's interesting. It's not a huge, I'm still excited for 99% of the characters here. And I hope everyone else is too, but it's just something to note. It's interesting. I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but it is what it is, you know? Okay, so I think we should start getting into the list.
Absolutely.
I'd like to just very quickly list off everyone that was announced today, and then we can get more into it if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to do it 2 ways. I'm going to do it... I kind of grouped them together in, like, a way of where they're, like, connected to other characters. Like, I have, like, Captain America, Falcon together. I have the Fantastic Four together. But then I'll do a second order in the order they were announced. Okay. So all 27 characters. We have Thor, Loki, Captain America, Falcon, Ant-Man, Shang-Chi, Sue Storm, The Thing, Human Torch, Reed Richards, U.S. Agent, Bucky Barnes, Yelena Belova, Sentry / Bob, Red Guardian, Ghost, Black Panther, Namor, M'Baku, Beast, Professor X, Magneto, Nightcrawler, Mystique, Cyclops, Gambit, and Doctor Doom.
Whoa.
Whoa. This one I'm not going to read as fast because it's kind of all over the place. But okay, let's see. In order of what order they were announced.
Oh, actually, I think it would be fun if we kind of input kind of how we're feeling as we go in the order.
Of when they were announced?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
Thor.
So we have Thor.
So love to see Chris Hemsworth back. I think
Yes.
some people were wondering if he'd come back to do another Thor or another movie in the Thor role.
Yes.
Especially after recently it was announced, I would say in the past year or so, his concerns about some of his health stuff and being interested in taking a break from movies and these kinds of roles especially.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never seen anything like that. That's
So-
interesting to me. I thought you were going to say that he was skeptical about the future of his character.
I
didn't
would
see
say
anything.
after Love and Thunder, which was poorly received,
Right.
I don't think there was a question of people wanting to see Thor again. I think it
Yeah.
was a question of, will Taika Waititi ever work with Marvel again?
Right,
And I
and
think ultimately the answer is going
I
to
think
be
that was
not
a clear
outside
no.
of being Korg.
Yeah. Especially
So-
after Ragnarok, to have such a unanimous agreement that you should not return. I mean, that's a big
Yeah,
no.
we'll see it if the Russo brothers follow suit with that.
Mm-hmm. That's
I
a
think
good
that's
point,
interesting,
actually. That's a good comparison.
Because they haven't had a bad Marvel movie yet, and we'll see if they get the Taika treatment.
Yeah.
The
And
Taika
I mean,
treatment.
whether or not these next two Avengers films are good, they're going to make a lot of money. So it's not going to be that. It's going to look at more of quality, which there's still people who really just straight up don't like Endgame. I like Endgame. I think it's more flawed than Infinity War. But I'm definitely not in the group of people. But there's definitely a group of people that just straight up does not like Endgame. So that'll be
that's-
interesting.
My thing is, if you don't like Endgame, then kind of what are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
There's this guy who does the cinema, the pitch meetings. I think I've shown you a couple of those.
Okay.
And he did a video pitching the Endgame movie, and he was like, so this is going to be the culmination of 10 years of storytelling in the superhero genre. So what about the people who this is their first movie?
Yeah.
And then they start laughing. It's like, we stopped caring about them a long time ago. And it's like, this has always been a part of keeping up to date.
Mm-hmm.
Either you're in it or you're not at some point.
Yeah.
But also you can just jump in because these are movies with their own start and end.
Yeah.
I don't know. But back to Thor specifically.
Yes.
It
Excited
recently
for him.
came out that he was very likely to have Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay.
So,
actually, that does sound familiar.
Yeah, so it's really great to see him back here again. Hopefully, if this does end up being a farewell to his character, which I think could possibly be in the cards.
It is true.
After playing him for so long.
All three of the remaining original 6 Avengers, I think, are on the table for it. One of these being their last.
Yeah, and I think he might
And I
be
think
really
that would
up
be
there.
fitting for any and all of them.
Especially
honestly.
if it's him and Loki being in it again. There could be a good goodbye
Yeah,
there. that
and then
can
you
really
have like
close the arc.
She-Hulk for Hulk, and then you have Kate Bishop for Hawkeye. Like, there's a continuation or like a satisfying ending.
Yeah, I think just
possibility
a
there.
end to everything that's
Yeah.
just satisfying.
And not
I
that
think-
they have to die. It's just
Yeah,
maybe
look at Guardians 3.
kind of like the Guardians. You know, you're not going to see them again.
So, very exciting. He's a big powerhouse. And I think, because we were talking about, there's a lot of characters here, how many of them are on the team that Sam Wilson's Captain America is assembling to be on the actual Avengers. And I
Yeah.
think Thor's going to be one of them. He's still in New Asgard, so he's a magical boat ride away.
Yeah.
So I think we can put him in the group as Sam's Avengers.
I think
which
so. That'd be a
is-
good
Which
possibility.
is a great powerhouse. Second was Susan Storm, Vanessa Kirby.
Storm.
So
Also very exciting. We knew that well, I guess I don't know if we knew, but we assumed that the Fantastic Four was, gonna have something to do with the next Avengers movie, and it was a good confirmation right out the bat of saying, yeah, they're gonna be part of this movie. We were hoping it would be all 4. We didn't know if it would be all 4. But yeah, that was a good confirmation that, yeah, we're getting something from that movie. And again, like you said, especially now that we have all 4 of them, you better go see that movie because
first off, that movie, that trailer,
it looks great.
So great.
It looks
very
worth
compelling.
seeing. Same with Thunderbolts. Like,
Yeah,
just go
and
see
I think
it.
the people who were I think the Thunderbolts bandwagon is on. I think this Fantastic Four bandwagon started really strong, and I'm sure that's just going to build momentum the more we see.
Very excited for the Superman and Fantastic Four month. I'm sure some people will turn into a competition, but I'm just excited to hopefully see 2 solid superhero movies, comic book movies.
I don't know. I hope a lot of movies are able to really succeed next to each other.
That's what I really loved about the Barbie and Oppenheimer, because at the end of the day, they were both good and they were both successful for the industry, and I hope that's what this is.
Like last November with Wicked and Moana 2 releasing really close to each other.
Yeah.
They're both in very similar genres. They were both able to make really good box office.
Yeah.
So I think there's no reason they necessarily have to cannibalize each other. It just depends on if, I would say, if one was earlier and was maybe lower quality, it could make people feed into that.
That's true.
Content's bad now. So I think it's really just about building momentum.
I think,
overall
and
through all the
Superman's
studios.
first, I think.
I believe Superman's first.
Like 2 weeks before.
And then ultimately there would be some, like, I think it's all about momentum with box office.
And I wonder if the Thunderbolts is going to be a part of that conversation too, because it's 2 months before Superman basically, but it's already in the conversation. I think
it is a very loaded summer movie season.
Yeah.
So, and I think Thunderbolts is going to be a huge part of that conversation.
My cat's so funny. She's chewing on the doorknob.
But Susan Storm, originally whenever we saw her next to Thor's chair, I was thinking, oh, maybe they're just going to pull like specific characters to be like in the main group for this movie, and that would be really interesting.
Okay.
Like they're trying to find the rest of their group and they're working together as a team.
Okay.
I thought those two together is a really interesting and unique combination.
We love our manager here.
Yeah, she's chilling. But yeah, I think she's gonna be really fun. Her powers look really cool with her force fields and the bending of light.
I agree. It looks very pretty and it looks very accurate. Like, I like that it's not just a blue force field. I like that they're giving life to it. And it looks like it's connected to her light powers. Like
it looks like it's very
her.
artistic.
Yes.
And a very visually compelling thing to look at.
I agree.
And then I immediately was thinking, oh, her and Thor in a scene together. What would that look like? I feel like it's her being the mom.
Love that.
Kind of like, so that was interesting. Here's what we should probably try now. And like a lot of that kind of dynamic. And I don't know why. I thought that was...
I feel like that could be really funny.
I think that would have been a really interesting dynamic if it was them and a small group of misfits from the other teams kind of working together. And I thought she's actually a really good idea. If I were going to pull probably one person out of that team to be in some
I would have picked her as well.
I would have picked her. I think she has a really fun energy that's decently unique to some of the other characters. But number
also,
3,
early on was Captain
America, Anthony Mackie. We know Captain America Brave New World could be looking a little better in the theaters. I think it's not where Marvel wanted it to be, but it's nice to see them standing behind him and putting him still.
I mean, he was the third person announced. Like, they had time to change that, and they didn't. And so I'm glad, because I'm glad that they're standing behind him. He deserves that.
So, and at the end of his movie, as we've talked about, he was looking to form the Avengers still. And he basically confirmed that his Falcon, Joaquin Torres, was also going to be on the team, which he's here today in this announcement. Which
he's
is
number 14. We'll get
nice
to
to
that.
see them stand by that.
Yeah.
So hopefully, which suit are you hoping he wears?
I mean, I think it'd be cool if maybe they combined like the white one and the blue one from the show and the. I mean, they're gonna do something different. They're not gonna keep the same one. If
I think it's gonna look closer to the blue one.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, but I would like a little bit more white. You know, that would be cool.
The white one did look really good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the blue one looks really solid.
I really like both. I really don't have any complaints. Even if they don't change anything and you just use one of the suits, I'm good with that. So.
And then, like I said, in my brain, he's leading his little group of the heroes that he assembled on Earth.
Speaking of another person that could potentially at least be an ally to that team, Mr. Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier himself. I know some people don't want to call him the Winter Soldier, but who cares?
But
it's fine. He's Bucky. It's fine.
He's just
He was
Bucky.
announced number 4.
Yep, I think that's another. I think they started out with the characters you'd expect on this team. I would say Sue's a bit of an outlier.
Well, and I like that Bucky was the first Thunderbolts. You were like, oh, they're they're talking about the Thunderbolts now, like. But it didn't get into that I know some people didn't like that they announced a lot of the Thunderbolts. I think that's valid, but at this point it is what it is.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
so I think Bucky hadn't quite gotten to that, they're spoiling the movie kind of thing. Some people did think so. They were like, I thought Bucky was going to die.
Apparently, a lot of people were thinking Bucky was gonna die in
Yeah.
the Thunderbolts. I don't know what possibly makes you think that, because there's no way. There's no
mean,
way they're
and-
going to kill off Sebastian Stan after being nominated for Emmys and
Right, especially when that's
Oscars.
their whole, or that's their main pitch for the Thunderbolts. That was
Also
their
a good
recent
point.
pitch was, look at all these, Oscar stuff, Oscar-nominated people and team. Of course they're not going to get rid of Sebastian Stan.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
also
if they
Sebastian
were, it
Stan.
wouldn't be in the first movie of the Thunderbolts.
No.
If that's a team that goes
Well,
on.
and I believe he said, he'll play Bucky the rest of his life if they want him. And so why would they not want him? He wants them.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. So I was not
And
surprised
also,
to see him.
I think before they announced all of the other Thunderbolt characters, in my head, in the whole Thunderbolts discussion, I've always been wondering, will the Thunderbolts still be a team after that movie? Is this a one and done? Is this going to be something they're hoping to make into its own little trilogy? Is this eventually going to be a new type of team-up movie
Yeah.
that could potentially be comparable to the Avengers?
Certainly
We will
seems like
see.
they're still going to do something with them, whether they're actively as a team or they're just, contacting each other to help with the Avengers. I don't know.
Because at this point, where you're 4 chairs in, my thought is, cool. Is he here as an Avenger? Is he here as a Thunderbolt?
Right. And that's kind of answered later,
It
I
is
would
very
say.
much answered by all of
Absolutely.
the other Thunderbolts being
Yes,
here.
absolutely. Number 5 is Black Panther, Shuri.
Ooh, I'm glad.
Very excited. I was so happy to
very
see
glad
her
that
name.
she's here.
That I think Sebastian Stan was when I joined, because I remember Letitia's name being one of the first actually revealed for me. So that was very exciting. I'm glad that they're acknowledging that her movie was a big success and people like her as Black Panther. They like what they did with what they were given, and I think she's great. I think she's a great character. I'm excited that we're going to see her again.
Yeah, and I think Letitia Wright has...
And that introduces another world
Yes,
that
it
they're
brings
bringing in.
Wakanda.
So
But I will say, I think that she's going to be introduced in this movie on Captain America's Avengers team.
okay.
Because at the end of her movie, she isn't the queen.
I mean, they're
of Wakanda.
allies.
Well, she isn't the queen of Wakanda, and so
Right.
she has the freedom to go and do what she
Right.
feels is right. So being on the Avengers, I think, is definitely one of them,
That's
especially
on the table, I would
when
say.
Wakanda is a part of her multiverse and you have to protect all that. So I
Yeah.
think that that's... I would not be surprised, and I really think that she's going to be on Sam's team.
Yeah.
I think that was too set up for her to go off and do her own thing outside of Wakanda at the end
Yeah.
of that movie.
I will say, though, the Russo brothers have had a past of not directly following some storylines from other movies, so I hope they still remember to do this one.
Well, but
Because, the Guardians were different. What else did they do different? I feel like there are other things. Maybe I need to think about it and write it down, but I feel like I've seen a few things where they changed the storylines a little bit. I mean, they changed Thor's character a lot. Some people didn't like
I
where
don't
they
know.
went with
It brought him.
and-
I think that they made Thor a lot of what he was in the earlier Avengers movies, which was they made him more serious, and it's funny because he's more serious and he's like the fish out of water because he's surrounded by more of. He takes what he is so seriously, but he's typically the more so you're a god with a hammer that shoots lightning, but he takes that so seriously.
like it's normal.
Like he's so
Yeah.
from another world, and I think he plays that really well, especially in an ensemble like this where you have
That's
all of
true.
these wilder characters. And I think they brought him back to that after Taika Waititi's was making him more of a comedic character. And I think in Ragnarok that was really cool and interesting take, and he was still able to
Yeah.
bring in emotion when he needed to. But
I don't know. I just hope they remember to form that team, that it doesn't go out the window. But
sure.
We'll see.
And also, I would also say I think he does the Guardians. I don't think he does it as well as Gunn, but I think they're very serviceable in Infinity War.
well, and I was thinking, I don't know if they knew what was going to happen in Captain America, if they knew that he was forming that team by the time they wrote the script. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do that in this movie. but I do hope they follow up with it at some point. If not in this movie, maybe the next, or the next Captain America movie or whatever. So, I don't know.
We shall see.
Who's number 6?
Next up,
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man with his tiny chair.
That was kind of fun.
I think it's crazy that that's the only different chair.
Yeah.
I was really expecting to see some kind of Hulk chair that was really big.
Yeah.
But then that never came.
Some people theorized Doom having a throne. Some people wanted Professor X to have his like yellow chair, which I think could have been kind of fun. But they didn't. Yeah, his was the only different chair. I mean, but you have to do a small chair for Ant-Man.
Apparently.
I mean, I'm glad they did.
So Ant-Man's coming back after Quantumania. Where do you think? And I would assume he's also on Sam's Avengers team.
Probably.
And like we were saying, so Ant-Man's here. What's Wasp doing?
Where's
We know she has a company
Where's
now.
Cassie Lang or any of the Young Avengers?
No Young Avengers.
No Young Avenger announcements.
I think they might be saving that.
Hopefully.
To kind of pad out as its own team among the more popular characters that get announced after.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're going to save the rest of the remaining big name characters for after this year. After, hey, you watched these movies like we told you to. And for that, here's some of these other characters, and it'll pad that with some of the younger Avengers characters.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And then.
And after Quantumania, so he's aware of the multiverse. Honestly, of the people that I'm assuming are on the Avengers team, he actually has the most experience, oddly enough, with the multiverse. And that's coming from Ant-Man.
Yeah, as far as I could think of so far.
So, it'll be interesting.
Unless Sue Storm, because she might, well, she's not going to be on the Avengers team.
I'd imagine she's coming in with the rest of the Fantastic Four off the bat.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. There's no Kang off of his movie, so I don't know how applicable any of his information is going to be.
I think everyone's going to be fine if they don't mention Kang. I don't think they're going to care. I think it's going to be like Secret Invasion where you're like, it exists, but I'm okay if you never acknowledge that it exists. So, because I think Ant-Man, it wasn't his fault. It certainly wasn't Paul Rudd's fault that his movie was what it was. And I'm glad that I'm glad that he had a bad movie and now gets an opportunity to still continue his character because his character's fun.
Because truth be told, this is probably the only place we're going to see his character from now on. Unless they get another director that has a great pitch.
Right.
At
least
not
for
Peyton
a while.
Reed.
Yeah.
Number 7?
Yeah, number 7. Oh, the first, I would say, like, big shock. I don't know about huge shock, but, like, I would say it was a solid shock.
Yes, I was so ready for this. U.S.
agent Wyatt Russell.
And this was the first...
John Walker.
This was the first sign that this was going to be a long video.
Yep. You were like, oh, they're doing this. And that was the first moment you were like, oh, the Thunderbolts. That's the second Thunderbolt. That's the other one.
And it's not Florence Pugh, who I would say is the only other one who could have just gone off to do her own thing.
Yep.
So it's very weird.
Like, no, they're doing the Thunderbolts.
Are they going to do a lot with Russell and Thunderbolts to get them to this point?
Yeah.
Or are the other Thunderbolts going to be coming?
Although, yeah, which we find out later the others are. So I'm glad they answered that question because I was wondering, like, what are you going to do with, like, Bucky, Yelena, and U.S. Agent? Because obviously, like, Yelena was going to be in there eventually, and she was. But I'm glad it's like, oh, it's not just him, it's like all of them.
And at that point, I was thinking, so this is just the Falcon and Winter Soldier, like, reunion.
Yeah. Which, okay.
What trio?
Whatever. Number 8. I cannot find number 8.
Number 8, Namor.
Oh, Namor.
This one had me really hyped.
This was a shock as well.
I was very shocked. Yeah. And I have no idea inherently how he's just a part of this. Because there's no way he's an Avenger.
He's an ally to Shuri. So I guess
he could be.
Because he didn't he say, like, if they were ever under threat, he would help them? But if for some reason... There was something like, I'll take over if this happens. I forgot what that was.
It ended Wakanda
but that's not going to happen in this
saying
movie.
The rest of the world is going to come for Wakanda anyway, and then they're going to fight back because that's going to happen, and then that's how me and Wakanda are going to take over the world.
Okay. Well, that's not... So I guess, and other than that, he's an ally. So I guess... And, any of these roles can be cameos, potentially, or, like, smaller parts.
I would assume... I imagine it's just going to be like Infinity War, where you just have so many characters, and they... And I think they wouldn't be on here if they weren't going to do something. Like, I don't think there's a single character from Infinity War who didn't have a time to do something shocking or compelling.
I would say maybe it's, like, kind of what all the quote unquote cameos did in Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, they were cameos, but like they still had scenes. It wasn't just like a quick, here's this person and then leave.
I would say
it was
if
like
there
a
was,
little bit of a scene.
I would say these are not likely to be cameos. I think that there's still going to be plenty of people who are just there for 1 second doing something cool and then we never see them again.
Yeah.
I think these are these are going to be the build
at least
actors
one scene. Yeah.
with
at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So very exciting. I loved how they introduced him. I'm really excited to see him fight with other people.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be really... And he's here with Sue, who he's supposed to have an instant attraction to. And
you just know they're going to do one scene where they at least look at each other, or he looks at her, or something. They may not even, like, have a talking interaction, but they're going to have some sort of, like, look or, like, you know, nod to the audience where they're like, yep, we remember the comics. I even know about that, and I haven't read the comics.
I think he's a very exciting addition. That
Also,
I didn't see coming.
Also another exciting addition, number 9, The Thing. That's another, like, oh, so they are doing the Fantastic Four. Yeah. It's not just going to be Sue. If they're also doing The Thing, they're going to do the other 2, which they did. So that was exciting. I'm excited for that movie. And again, that was adding all 4 is like, you have to see this movie.
Yeah.
If you weren't for whatever reason already, weird, go see it. So, yeah. I'm excited. Number 10. Oh, this was a very big excitement for both of us. We were waiting for this.
Yes, and
this
I guess
was on
this
our
one,
list.
as soon as they played the music, that they were going to start switching
Yep.
chairs.
I loved that they did the music.
And it is Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
I'm very excited he's here. I think with his rings, he has a very unique fighting style.
Yep.
And he's also a powerhouse.
In like a crowd, you could tell where he is. I feel like because of his fighting style and the rings. They're very unique. You'd be like, oh yeah, that's Shang-Chi and his rings.
I'm very
That'd be
excited.
cool.
I'd assume he's also on Sam's Avengers team.
Yes, because he's had
could do
contact with some of the
awesome
others.
stuff.
Mhm.
So.
Ooh, that is weird that he had contact in the post-credit scene with, I think, Rocket, Captain Marvel, and Bruce Banner.
It was
and
Bruce
none
Wong
of them,
and Captain Marvel.
and none of them are confirmed for this
Yeah,
movie.
that
So
is
that is weird
interesting.
for me. So I wonder where the connection is there, if not any of those 3.
And they didn't announce Awkwafina was going to be joining him. I don't think she necessarily needed to, but it's another thing where it's like, okay, so you're just we're just taking you
I'm
out
okay
of your
if
own
she
world.
doesn't.
I mean, sure, she didn't need to, but it's another thing.
I mean, it would have been another woman. Just come on, Marvel. You just throw some scraps.
It'd be
okay.
interesting to see, because I think Awkwafina was such a personality in that as like the main female
That's
lead in
true.
that movie, and I think Shang-Chi is a very internal character.
Yeah.
That it'll be interesting to
They
see
had a
him
good
gain a
dynamic.
dynamic outside of that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Next up.
number
11. Yelena Belova.
Yelena. That's what I mean. We all knew that she was coming, so we're like, yeah.
Pew, pew,
but it's still
pew.
exciting to see her name and yeah, that was just a
You love to see
continuation.
you love to see a widow in an Avengers movie.
Yep.
Very exciting.
Love
She's
that.
gonna bring so much humor to this, I'm sure.
Mhm.
I mean, I'd love to see how she reacts with the big leagues that she's talked about with Natasha.
And I think it's gonna be cool that she's in the circumstance of her sister. I hope there's at least like a line of like, whoa, so this is what my sister did. Even though it's like,
I would
yeah,
love
you
for
knew,
some-
you knew what she did, but it's also like, whoa, that's what she did, and you're seeing it. That could be a really cool
and I would
opportunity.
love for people who knew Natasha, like
Yep.
Thor or Sam, to kind of talk about, oh, so I didn't know she
You're
had
the
a sister.
sister, right.
She was amazing, and show some love to Nat. Gotta
Yeah.
love some Nat love. So very exciting.
Oh, man.
I think there was no way she wasn't going to be in this movie, no matter what it looked like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Belova number
Number
12.
Oh, Beast. This was our first X-Men.
Oh yeah.
This was a huge
this one
shock.
Was crazy.
I was excited though. I
Kelsey
was like,
Grammer.
okay, they're opening up a whole nother door. What does this mean for Monica or Maria? Which
'Cause
they
Beast-
still haven't been confirmed.
Because
But
Beast was in the end credit of the Marvels, where
yes.
Maria Rambeau ends up in another universe with
Yeah.
an established X-Men. She's in the X-Men's hospital wing,
Mhm.
and her mother Maria, who is, I forgot what that name is called, but it's like the
Binary.
binary.
Mm-hmm. That's very.
And she's
exciting.
there,
Which-
and she has the powers of Captain Marvel as well.
yeah, which neither one of them are confirmed, but
Which I think is
surely, I mean, it's a
Crazy.
little weird, but it's surely like that's the universe they're gonna pull from. Some people
'Cause
have
we
also
just saw
said they
him.
might do a storyline where it's like the X-Men versus the Avengers and they're against each other because of Doom pulling the strings above.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, and that would be the two universes. Monica's like the connection there. The incursions, the excuse Doom uses to be like, see, your universe is gonna die if you don't kill the other, and like da da da.
Sure.
So yeah,
That's
that raises a
compelling.
good opportunity. So
Then
I'm excited.
Number
Number
13 was Bob. We got Bob. Very bold,
Or
I think,
Sentry.
since he's so clearly set up to be the villain of Thunderbolts.
Yes,
To
but
show that
I'm-
he makes it out alive. Very
That is a
bold.
little bold. However, I am happy to know that because I know a big complaint is that the MCU always kills off its villains after one movie. So I'm glad they can.
Well, but here's the thing.
But
I
then
think it
now
gets
it's a
more
spoiler.
cliche with the villain joining the hero team at the end.
I don't know. Sentry's
But
hard.
here's the thing with Sentry, because there's a big
He's
discussion
both
about
good
what
and
the
bad.
asterisk at the end of Thunderbolts is for.
Mhm.
And some people have talked about, oh, that means it's a placeholder. At the end of the movies, they'll be the Dark Avengers. And Sentry is is one of the prominent members on the Dark Avengers team,
Could be.
kind of replacing Thor.
Yeah.
So
They even said in the trailer, like, the moment they put the asterisk is when they're like, I don't know about that name or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like, it is a placeholder.
we're
and
not going to
so-
call ourselves that.
Yeah, and it's not the first time where a project has started with one name and ended with another,
Yeah,
aka Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
which
and
became
then
Captain America and
Captain
the Winter
America,
Soldier at
yeah.
the very last episode.
so it could open that door. It's just interesting that they would kind of reveal that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see
Now?
what him adding to that team dynamic is going to be.
Yep.
Is he still going to be crazy? Is he still going to have those weird whoosh shadow powers?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the void in all of that? And then
Mm-hmm.
who's he gonna be fighting, because he can
Yeah.
handle a lot of people really easily. So
That's
what's
true.
gonna make him struggle and make
Mm-hmm.
there have to be another movie? I think that's gonna be really interesting to see.
Oh, no.
Number 14 was
Falcon.
Joaquin Torres,
Joaquin
the new Falcon.
Very
And we knew
excited.
he was going to be here. I hope he gets a new costume. Or
I don't know. I didn't.
I think
No,
it looks
no,
fine in
I
the
was
movie.
hoping he would be
I
here.
think among the other costumes, I think it's going to really show that he
I
can
feel like
use
the
that
only thing I
costume.
didn't like was the helmet. I was fine with everything else.
I think he needs a new helmet. I think the wings look fine, and the color I think looks fine.
Anything
I think
can
it just
be
kinda needs to
replaceable.
be like, I don't know. It looks very practical, but next to Captain America,
That's fair.
I think it very much looks like, yep, I drew the I
The
drew
short
the
straw?
short straw.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I got the worst costume.
Yeah.
And I think if he's going to be a part of the Avengers team as he is, I think you
Yeah.
gotta go, because people always say all the Avengers costumes look like they shop at the same store.
Mhm.
Get him in
Okay.
that store.
Yeah, get him in that store. He deserves it.
Give my man's an upgrade.
So I'm excited for him. Ooh, and then we have our next
15
Fantastic
was
Four member.
Human Torch.
Yep,
Very
Joseph Quinn.
exciting. I personally think he's going to kill that role.
I think so too.
That's apparently a
looks
hot
like he will.
take.
Ha hot.
Hot. But I have a lot of. He's blown me away in every role that I've seen him in so far, and he's done
Yeah,
way more
so
than I
great.
think he's ever needed to. He's
Mhm.
really great at getting an audience to adore him.
Yeah.
So, and that's gonna be really interesting to see, because
And what I also think is interesting is a lot of people hated on his character from Stranger Things, but he pulled the ladies from the audience perspective. He pulled those ladies, and that's what Human Torch is supposed to be.
I
And
can't
they're like, he
believe
has no game.
whenever
Shut up.
whenever his casting
Oh my
came out, I was so
gosh.
surprised, because I didn't watch Stranger Things
Okay.
with everyone else,
Mhm.
but I knew about Eddie, and I knew that everyone loved Eddie.
Yep.
And I knew going in that he would die. And so
Yep.
I saw
Spoilers.
him. Whatever.
It has been out for a few years
little
now.
bit.
3 years, I think.
But
Anyways.
and I knew he was going to die by the end of the last season.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to him, and I was like, I don't get it. And then half an episode later, I'm like, oh no.
Yep.
I'm attached. I knew I shouldn't get attached, and I'm already attached.
Yep.
I think he has such a great power
Such
to
charisma.
get to form a connection with the audience, which not everyone can do.
Mhm. And sometimes he was kind of a jerk in that show, as well as
Sure.
a cutie pie as well. Especially with at first with Erica, that whole he was definitely
Mhm.
classic, egotistical human
Yeah,
torch.
I think there's a lot showing that he's going to be great for this role. So I'm very excited to see that. And I'm excited to see that he's going to be here, which I kind of guessed. But
Ooh, here's our next Thunderbolt, the Red Guardian, David Harbour.
Yay. Okay. We were
I'm
just
not
talking
as
about
it's
Stranger
fine.
Things. And I actually think it's funny that the two Stranger Things
I did
actors are
see
right
a
next to each
tweet
other.
about that. They're about to reunite.
But I think he's great in Stranger Things. I think he was given the short straw for the Black Widow movie. I think everyone can agree he was the most unnecessary role, which I think is unfortunate. He was the humor. He was like a humor character,
He was funny.
but Yelena was always funnier.
She had like a very different kind of humor though. He had a very like, you're an idiot humor, and Yelena was like, you're an idiot kind of humor. Like,
Yeah. We'll see. We'll definitely see more of that dynamic in the Thunderbolts. Hopefully it grows on me, especially because now I know he won't die. Everyone's thinking Taskmaster's going to die. It's almost solid now that Taskmaster's not on this casting list.
Yep.
But I was my second vote
And if
on
she
who was
doesn't
going to
die, then why isn't she on this list? Why is she,
my
whatever.
second guess for who was going to die was Red Guardian, and apparently that is
Yep, me too.
not going to happen now.
No.
So we shall.
I don't know, man.
We'll see what the dynamic at the end of that movie is going into this.
Yeah.
17, M'Baku.
17, M'Baku. I literally like shrieked. I was so excited. I love him.
He's very funny, and I love seeing Winston Duke getting work.
You bald-headed demon. That's so funny. Oh my god, I'm so excited for him. I am surprised though that they brought him in and didn't mention Okoye or Nakia again. Women, Marvel, women.
To me, I think,
but
because as the ruler of Wakanda and someone who hasn't taken the herb, I feel like this is a sign that some part of this movie takes place in Wakanda again.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to know.
Which is
I think
where
that's
you would
the
see
only
at
place,
least Okoye, if not Nakia as well.
But then that brings into question, why are we coming to Wakanda and not seeing the other familiar faces?
Which it doesn't, it's not like this is a full list, or at least we don't think so, but it's still interesting that they announced him and not the other two, but whatever. Maybe that was their way of saying we're going to Wakanda, and then later they'll be like, yeah, and we're going to see these two.
Yeah.
That would be my hope.
So, number 18, another Thunderbolt.
Yes.
The Ghost.
Ghost.
I saw some people saying that they thought she was going to die.
She
My
would
reaction
have been
to
my third
that,
option, I would say.
maybe, but her whole thing is that things go through her.
Yeah.
How is she gonna die?
I mean,
I don't even
Bob.
know. I mean, maybe,
Bob.
but how does a ghost be a shadow? A ghost is already a shadow.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
So
how
I
that
think,
works.
yeah, and I think there's a really niche amount of people who are really drawn to her character, and haven't
like
seen
her, though.
her.
I don't
I
know
also
that-
really like her. I really was excited. She was my most exciting pick for this team, and I like Yelena a lot, and I think I also have a connection to Bucky, but I think she adds a really interesting, because she's kind of like a wild card with her ability.
Yeah,
that's so unique to this team.
She's not quite Street Fighter like the rest of them. She actually has a power.
She has a power, and she's trained like the rest of them. Everyone there's a trained killer.
Yes. But rather than just like super strength from super serum, she actually has like a more unique ability compared to the rest.
I'm very excited.
I feel like she could be another one that you could potentially see on the battlefield if she like blinks in and out a little bit.
Sure.
It depends on how bright they would make
I'm
that.
interested to see if they up her abilities at all in Thunderbolts, and that's going to lead into something here.
I'm excited.
We shall see. Number
19 goes to the next page, I think. No.
19.
Where do we go from here? Where's my 19?
19 is Loki. Oh, and they dropped that Loki music really hard.
That was another like out of my skin moment. I was so excited for the Loki theme. This also opens up so many more doors, because you could have a Thor and Loki interaction. You could have, when he's so alone and isolated, how are they going to bring him in? Are they going to bring people to him? Are they somehow going to bring him to other people?
That's what I was thinking.
Are they going to use him as a pawn like Doom?
Because my thought is, if Doom is trying to take control of the multiverse, Loki's literally holding that thing together. That's where you want to go to get literally your hands on the multiverse.
Yep.
So my guess is
maybe that's
the
how
whole
he
thing
pulls
is
the
about
strings.
getting to him.
Yeah. Or somebody said he is the key. And so
The
maybe
Loki.
maybe the X-Men and the Avengers are kind of like racing to figure out how to get to him, which would also open up an interesting door since Deadpool knows stuff about the TVA.
Heck, apparently he's watched Loki.
I mean,
Is that Eliath from season 1, episode 4 of Loki?
so, and he's an X-Men, but also kind of in the MCU, so it's like,
X-Force, actually.
well, anyways, so he's kind of in that in-between moment, so who would he help? Like, that would be really funny
That
if they
being
were
said,
like,
no
you're
Daredevil
the
on this list,
key.
no Ryan Reynolds.
No, that's true. That'd be so funny if they raced to him and they finally found him and they were like, you're the key to fighting Loki. And he was, I mean, he's Deadpool, and so he would just not take it seriously. And they would get so pissed. That could be fun.
Yeah.
It opens up a lot of possibilities.
Number
20 is when we get into the X-Men.
Patrick Stewart's
list.
return as
Yes.
Professor X. I think
Yep.
that's interesting. He won't be doing a lot of action.
No.
Hopefully
But-
his chair is a little smaller than it was in Multiverse of Madness.
Well, I mean, if you have Beast and you have that universe, I mean, you have other X-Men.
Yeah.
Probably. So
and
that
I'm presuming
clearly.
that he's coming from Beast's universe, where
That's
he
what I'm assuming,
mentions
too.
that there's a Charles Xavier alive,
Yep.
and not where that one universe in Multiverse of Madness.
No, because I mean, he died, so surely
So
not.
it'll be
right?
interesting. I imagine he'll be kind of the moral discussion of saving their branch of the universe,
Mhm.
and then probably doing some telepathic communications with someone. I'm
That's
sure.
true. Maybe he can. Do you think he would be able to communicate between his universe and theirs?
I'm
We've
sure
never
there's a
seen
way
him
they
do
can
that.
make that happen.
But yeah, if they want that to be a storyline, they'll figure out a way. That could be interesting.
There could be
Yeah.
something interesting
Oh,
there. I don't
yeah.
think he's the
I don't
most
know.
exciting because there's some
No.
huge, exciting, at least like action and story wise down
Yep.
here.
Speaking of
21.
Magneto,
Magneto.
Magneto was really the one.
The
When I saw
original.
that name, I was like, no way. Because that, again, there's
They
a lot of
got
opening
Gandalf.
doors. Oh my gosh. Gandalf will return in Avengers Doomsday. Did you see all those tweets where it's like
Yes.
Galinda will return or Elphaba or
Amelia
like
Perez
Perez?
will return.
I saw an Nora one. I was like, that's great. I love that this is a
The
bit
cat
now.
from Flo.
Yes, I saw that one too. And then the account from Flo posted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so excited I can finally talk about this. I loved that. And
That's so
also
funny.
Patrick Schwarzenegger. I don't think I said that right. But anyways, the guy Saxon from White Lotus, or the Gen V guy, he also posted his like chair where it said Saxon. I thought that was funny. I was like, okay.
That's goofy.
Um,
That's a really fun little marketing campaign.
Yeah, a few
that's very
actors
Barbie-like.
did that. Yeah, a few actors outside of the Marvel universe did that.
Yeah,
so
it's fun to see.
I think
something
even
that just
James
takes
Gunn
something.
did something. He said like some characters wait just begging to be announced or whatever, and I was like, okay. He's
Lord.
having his fun too.
But Magneto's fun. Obviously, there's so much you can do with him. They did so much with
Yes.
him in the early 2000s. It's going to be fascinating to see what they do with that now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's going to be really fun.
So excited, and that opened up doors. Who were they gonna pick next from
Yeah.
the X-Men that have not been in the MCU? He was the first pick of ones that have not been in the MCU.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we have
22,
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler, Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler, the original. And a lot of people revere that opening scene of him portaling through the White House as like one of the earliest like masterpieces of superhero
Mm-hmm.
movies.
I'm
and
excited.
it's
Yeah.
certainly up there. I'm interested to see, especially after how well Nightcrawler's received from X-Men 97.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they do
I
with
loved.
his sword fighting and with his
Mhm.
tail. I think there's so much that you can do with that.
I did think it was interesting that I think for Professor X or Patrick Stewart, I think that's when they started playing the X-Men 97 music, which I found interesting because I feel like I would have done, I don't know. It felt interesting because he was in the MCU. So maybe they could have picked one of the others for that. And because I
To be
feel
fair,
like
when
he has
first,
a theme.
When he first rolled up in the MCU, they were
Mhm.
playing that theme.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't mind though. That's a great theme, and so I was excited to hear it multiple times. Speaking of, here's our next one.
23.
We have Mystique.
Rebecca Romaine's Mystique.
Guys, I need to learn these actresses' names because I kid you not, I accidentally tweeted Jean Grey because I looked at the cast
Oh,
list and mixed them up because they
no.
were right next to each other.
Oh,
I don't know
no.
their original names. Okay, I'm so sorry,
But that's very exciting.
but I fixed it
Respectfully,
very quickly.
All respect to Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's the Mystique that fans wanted, we needed.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be very exciting to see that.
Yeah, I'm excited. And they're all like the older versions, like none of the younger
original.
versions. And I think that was a good call.
Yeah,
for sure.
24.
Cyclops.
James
I was so excited. I love James Marsden so
It's nice to see him here. A lot of people thought he was going to be in Deadpool and Wolverine. It's nice to see that he's returned here.
Yep.
But want to know who didn't follow him up? Halle Berry. What the heck?
She trended, I think, like number 4 or 5. Even after the live stream ended, she was still trending, and they didn't pick her. That's kind of like, if you didn't like plan for her to be in this movie, you better make some phone calls and have her be in this movie. Yeah, absolutely. Same with Tom Holland. If for some reason you were gonna have Spider-Man in this movie, you better have. Same with Elizabeth Olsen. What are you doing? All 3 of those names were trending, and Wolverine was trending,
Ryan
or
Reynolds,
Hugh Jackman.
Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so you better be making some calls.
Doing, man?
Look at those trending lists and make some calls if you hadn't already planned for these people to be in.
Man, you have U.S. Agent here and not Spider-Man. Let's take a step back.
They were doing Thunderbolts. It makes more sense now. Okay, if it was just him and Yelena and Bucky, I would be saying that. But
I'm gonna say still, I like Thunderbolts. So much respect to the Thunderbolts. I'm so excited to see it. You don't have Doctor Strange. You don't have Wanda.
You don't have Wong. You don't have Valkyrie, Captain Marvel.
But yes, Ghost.
War Machine.
War Machine.
Hey, don't hate on Ghost. Hate on U.S. Agent. Okay.
No, I love Ghost, and I think U.S. Agent's a really interesting character. But anyways, moving on.
We're gonna move on from
to
Gambit,
our most excited Gambit. I think time for a hot take.
Neither one of us liked Gambit. We saw this movie separately, literally in other states. We did not talk about this together. We did not watch it together. And we both came to the same conclusion separately that we did not like Channing Tatum as Gambit. I acknowledge that is, for whatever reason,
a very hot take.
A hot take.
People really
Same
like
with Multiverse of Madness. We didn't like that movie either. And a lot of people love that movie. They're like, whoa. Love and Thunder sucked, but Multiverse of Madness was good, because people were saying that they didn't want Sam Raimi to work again in the MCU either, and they were like, whoa. It's like, he can or he can't. I think Tyga's a sure, like, no.
For sure.
Raimi, I don't know if he was the main person to blame for that movie. I think he also could have been the writer, Michael Waldron.
Yeah, there's a handful of reasons that you kind of have to look at, and they would know, and the studio would know more than we do about where
visually it looked cool.
Visually, it's amazing, but then how much of that is the cinematographer compared to the director?
But I mean, a lot of those transitions were very Raimi. Like,
you can see his style all over the place. But,
yeah.
And ultimately, I don't think his style.
I wouldn't
was
put him out of the. I wouldn't put him out of the running, but I would make sure to pair him with someone with a better script.
Yeah, I would.
And then maybe that would be his last chance.
You know what I would do? I would make sure he's working on a character that isn't Wanda or isn't super fan beloved.
Yep. No Spider-Man. Stay away from Spider-Man. You already did that.
Make him do a Doctor Strange movie without Wanda in it, and let's see.
You had a solid trilogy. Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. Anyways, so Gambit.
We're not a big fan.
I guess he's here.
And
we'll deal with it.
Hopefully this means that they'll leave all the X-Men behind after these 1 or 2 movies. And maybe that's the bright side, is that since he's lumped in, he's left behind too.
He won't be the Gambit in the actual MCU universe when they try and get that team rolling there.
I sure hope not.
Because that's another great sign. All of these actors aren't going to be the characters in the main timeline.
Right. No.
Because
they're
at
too
this
old.
point, they're too old to be telling these stories for another 6-8 years.
Not to be a little morbid.
So I think that's a really good sign that this is kind of a send-off, an appreciation of their legacy.
Yeah.
And then kind of a step into whatever the next chapter of the X-Men movies are going to look like with the MCU.
I agree. I'm so happy for the people that love Channing Tatum, and we're excited for that. I like Channing Tatum.
And I hope you guys really like him. I think his powers look really visually interesting in Deadpool
I'm just
and Wolverine.
not a big fan of
great. But yeah, the casting we just will never see eye to eye on, and that's perfectly
but you know
okay.
What? Still, I'm so happy for the people who loved it.
After Gambit, 26 was I'm lost.
Oh, I think I misdid this. It's Reed Richards.
Reed Richards.
I put 25 on accident.
Pedro Pascal. Love to see him.
Very excited. Obviously, we knew at this point 3 out of 4 he was going to be there. still fun to see the confirmation. So,
Yeah. So very
And,
happy to see the internet's dad.
a small hot take, not really, but like a little bit, is that we like him as Reed Richards. And
Oh.
we're excited.
Yeah, I
I
would
think
say
I'm more confident than you are, but
I'm not. I think he is so fun to watch.
Mhm.
I think of the casted four, I think this is a character that I've not seen him play something similar to before. I think it's gonna be something new that I've seen from him, and I'm sure he can do it. It's just not something I can be like, oh yes, I can think
seen
he's
it
gonna be
done.
great for this role because I've seen him do this role. I don't have anything like that for him playing Reed.
Yeah,
So
I mean, and
I'm-
I haven't seen his full filmography either, but out of the ones I have seen,
That being
I
said,
would
I,
agree with
think he
that,
looks great
but-
in the trailer.
yeah, and he just had like
we'll
I
see how
think
he
a
stretches.
Jimmy Fallon. That's so funny considering he was just on Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Fallon was like, or like Jimmy Kimmel or one of those, I don't know, and I think they asked like, so what all stretches, and he's like, everything has to stretch, and he had like everything.
In the movie, and then he's like in the movie, and he's like, "Oh,
Oh.
that's what we're talking about."
He's just so fun. He's just so charismatic. Like, he
I
has the
cannot
ability
wait to
to
see
bring
behind
that.
the scenes stuff of him in costume. And
He's
doing
also
all that.
very,
It's gonna be
like,
so fun.
In The Last of Us, he's very like dad. Like, I don't know. I think he has the components to pull it off. That's why I'm not worried, even though we haven't seen
But
it
I wouldn't
together.
say Joel's a family man.
Well, but
Well, he is, but he's not
he's
like
like a protector. I don't know.
I
And
don't
then
know.
if he combines that with his charisma, like it's like a warm hug kind of dad.
Sure.
Like
There's
that's what I'm
definitely
saying.
elements
Is,
that I see, but I haven't
Yep.
seen it put all together, and that's ultimately what the performance is, and not everything works together all the time with some actors. So we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm very optimistic about it,
Mhm.
and he doesn't even have to prove me wrong. He just has to keep me on board. He
Yeah.
hasn't lost me yet.
Mm-hmm.
So super excited, and then last but
Final.
not least,
We had like they played the Avengers theme, and I was like, oh cool, another original Avenger. I thought they were gonna do like Hulk or Hawkeye, and then I see a person, I'm like, oh my god, this is Doom, because we both knew it was gonna end with Doctor Doom. I think we all did. So then when you saw a person walking, you were like, that's gonna be RDJ, and it was. And then he was so funny with this little like turnaround and like kind of thing. That was great. We also have a hot take where we're skeptical about his casting, not his ability to act well. That's not the problem whatsoever. It's more so that we've heard that they're gonna give him $80 million for this movie, or maybe both of the movies. I don't know. And that's
I think actually just this one.
That's just crazy to me, especially after the Electric State came out and that whole discussion of people kind of agreeing, yeah, that budget's crazy.
To be fair, that
Think
was
of the
budgeted
budget.
before that became a huge discussion.
Yeah.
And
I don't
another thing I
know.
think
if
that
you
needs-
sign on for that much, like, you can't really
To be
back
fair,
down from
another
that.
thing I think is worth talking about.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
'Cause
this is different. This is Avengers versus whatever the Electric State was.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this deserves a big budget and that one didn't. And especially this one's going to go to theaters and earn it back, unlike the Electric State. So it is different, but it's still a discussion I think needs to be there.
Another interesting thing with RDJ having been Iron Man and now being the face of Doom, and we've been talking about, so will they ever show his face?
I mean,
the
they
moment you
kind
show
of
his
have
face,
to.
then it's
Yeah.
an extension of Iron Man, and you're not seeing like a real comic book accurate Doom.
Right.
And at that point, if you're not going to show his face, this could have been
Don't
really
spend
anyone.
$80 million. Right.
This could have been voice work.
Yeah.
On
I
his
mean,
part.
That's true. But then we saw him wear the mask to reveal that it was him, so we know he's going to wear the mask.
For sure.
So
at
is
this
it
point, he's
gonna-
definitely going to be doing the physical performance.
I
but
feel like I would have been
but my-
okay if it was like a Mandalorian kind of thing, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be, at least not for the first movie. That maybe they'll backtrack and be like, maybe we should do that for the second movie.
But here's my thing. If they are going, and there's something that was recently put out where the Russo brothers say, after the events of Endgame, there's a reason that Doom looks like Tony.
That is true. So it's intentional.
Leaning into the idea that it's going to be a variant, which I continue to think, ew. Like, they're just two separate characters, and I think
It is
trying to
hard.
blend them into one feels really messy and will never, and it really shuts the door on getting a authentic adaptation of Doom.
But you know what? I did feel a little bit more hopeful after that comment, because at least it's intentional. they know they're not just doing. They're
I
not
think
solely
there's some
doing this
potential
to
to
get
do
a
it.
paycheck. They are saying like, we have a plan for him. It's intentional. We picked him for a reason. It's more than just to draw people in. And I think especially after this list and all the X-Men, you clearly don't need him, or you didn't need him. So they're doing this for a reason. I'm just
And that's my thing,
skeptical on
though.
how you can find a good reason. That's my thing.
Because whenever that I've seen
We'll
some
see.
of those conversations happen online of, so the Avengers have to deal with it being Tony's face. But now with this cast that we've seen, not
Sure,
many
half
of them
of
are
them
going to
are-
be affected.
Yeah, half of
Most
them
of
are
them
not
never
gonna care.
knew Tony.
And you know what? Maybe that's intentional as well.
But then it's like, so why are we doing... Like, if Spider-Man was here, that's a huge moment. If
Which surely he's
Hawkeye
gonna- but I
or
don't know.
Hulk are here, the only ones who can really say they even, like, were in the same room... If Rhodey was here. Like, you
Right.
don't... The people on Announced that have even just been in a room with Iron Man are Thor, Captain America, and then Shuri came to his funeral.
I mean, I'm sure there's some others too, but
Is there? Like, truly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think so many of
did
these
you say
characters...
Ant-Man?
Ant-Man.
And then Sam,
I said Sam.
and
That's 4.
I'm wondering, did
characters.
M'Baku at least see him? I don't think he did.
I don't
mean,
even
I'm
think
sure-
M'Baku went to the funeral.
Well, and I'm sure some of them know he exists, so they'll be like, "Oh, why is Tony Stark here?" But it won't have any
That is-
emotional weight.
You have no character that has a huge emotional weight to Iron Man
Yeah,
anymore.
so far.
So far, but still, I
interesting.
think, considering what a big choice that was, right now your cast list doesn't support doing that.
I don't know,
So, better get part 2 out
man.
pretty quick.
We'll
I'd
see.
imagine if there is a part 2 video coming, it'll come out following Fantastic Four.
I think so too. It's gonna be a while, and I think that would be the movie to follow for sure.
'Cause I think,
Um, Or you could wait, because there's likely to be good reception after those movies. Maybe not. That could always be a thing in their back pocket that they could use if they need some good press. But also there's like Ironheart coming out later this year, which I'm excited for, but not many people are excited for, so that maybe they'll save it that long from now. I don't know. That may be a long time, but maybe they're like, nobody likes this show. Here's an announcement. Here's the part 2. I don't know. We'll see.
yeah.
Plus, they
But
will be filming for a while, so I don't know.
Yeah, but just real quick, some of our snubs for the Avengers.
Wait. I
go
did
ahead.
have some
I don't wanna
notes.
jump.
Just
I
very
think we've talked
quickly,
a
I'll
lot
go
of
through
these.
them. It has all Fantastic Four members. 6 Thunderbolts. The only one missing is Taskmaster. 6 X-Men, technically. 5 original ones, and then Gambit. Let's see. No Eternals or Young Avengers. Which we talked about Young Avengers. I'm not super surprised about no Eternals. I am disappointed, though.
I messaged, let me be delusional. There's one Eternal here somewhere.
Please, just one. You could have Cersei. You could have Druig or Makari or Athena or Gilgamesh or
Gilgamesh is
Gilgamesh dead.
Druig
Yeah,
doesn't have powers. No, not Druig.
No,
I'm thinking of
that's
Sprite.
Druig has powers, or Fastus as well.
I think, because the way that
Just
movie
somebody.
ended,
Just give us somebody.
Athena, Makari, and Druig are the ones that aren't imprisoned. Throw Angelina Jolie in this ensemble.
Please. If you didn't have a high enough budget, add Angelina Jolie to that. I did think it was a fun way to announce it. It ended with 10 million viewers, despite
Crazy.
being unannounced, very long, and in the middle of a Wednesday. Does spoil Thunderbolts. M'Baku opens up the door for a couple other characters, which we talked about. Oh, I was going to list off the words or phrases that trended top 10.
Okay.
You have Marvel, Thunderbolts, Avengers Doomsday, Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, Loki, Nightcrawler, X-Men, James Marsden, Secret Wars, Wanda, Tom Holland. Tom Holland trended number 3 after the live stream ended.
Because
People
he was not on.
noticed that he was gone.
I looked it up afterwards, and there were so many tweets, ironically, that were like, Marvel fans sitting on a live stream for 5 hours to see Tom Holland is playing Spider-Man. And here we go. no Spider-Man,
Yep.
which is crazy.
Crazy. And then Halle Berry, Elizabeth Olsen, Hugh Jackman all trended between, like, I think Halle Berry trended like number 5 at some point, Elizabeth Olsen like number 9, Hugh Jackman was up there in the top 20 at least. So, and I'm sure I'm missing some, absolutely, because I wasn't like, my focus was more on the live stream, but I did look quite often after that first hour, and a lot of stuff trended. So that was interesting. We do have a list of characters that were missing from the leaked concept art, which, I mean, to their credit, the Russos did say it's not accurate, but
It honestly gives me kind of more Secret Wars vibes.
Especially after this cast list, it very much screams Secret Wars. And, you know, maybe they're right, or maybe they're just covering it up because they didn't want it leaked.
But still, I think most of these feel like characters that would very easily fit on Captain America's Avenger team.
I agree. We have Hulk and She-Hulk, the Young Avengers, Ironheart, Wiccan, Miss Marvel, Cassie Lang, Kate Bishop, America Chavez, which some of those were not on the concept art, but just kind of characters in general, the younger characters that we haven't seen. Star-Lord and White Vision were together in one of the concepts art, and neither one of them, none of the Guardians.
No Guardians. And I know most of those aren't going to be in the cards for... Some of them won't be in the cards for returning, but Rocket,
some of them
Groot,
can be.
Nebula, I
even
think
like Adam, like if you need
Adam
those
Warlock.
power, you
Will
need
Poulter
some power.
tweeted he would
Poulter.
love to... Poulter would love to come back for this movie. So it's very interesting. But you also... Wong was in the pictures.
Yes.
He didn't make this list either. No Benedict Wong.
Poor Wong. Just have him in there. People love Wong. Have that lady that liked Wong.
Madison. With the 2 N's and
why
a Y.
haven't we announced our main character, Madison?
Plot twist. Madison is going to be...
She's actually going to be Doom. Yeah, she's going to be under the mask. But she's still going to have RDJ's voice, just to be clear.
That's funny.
And then
other snubs are the Scarlet Witch, the Wasp, Valkyrie, Deadpool and Wolverine, which is crazy after their multiverse movie
after all
did
those,
so well.
Yeah, and all the X-Men, like, they need to be in there.
Hawkeye, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, any Eternal, also including the Black Knight, Moon Knight, or Daredevil.
Which those, like, we're both kind of like, I don't know where they could fit, but...
Moon Knight, I think, could have fit. I can very easily see a world where he just is on the Avengers now.
I'm just very frustrated that they haven't done anything with him, and this is even coming from someone who didn't love that show. It was fine to me. Daredevil, at least, there's a lot more opportunity for him to just kind of pop in as a lawyer. Like I'm not worried about him at all. He's having his moment right now.
I've heard conversations where they may be trying to kind of put a divide between the TV and the movie space with its characters.
Yeah.
And keeping TV characters more in the realm of TV. I think it's going to be interesting to see if they force characters that were intended to make that jump stay in TV, or if they're going to go ahead and make that jump already. I think your She-Hulk and Moon Knight, I think, are the biggest examples of ones that honestly probably shouldn't stay in the small screen.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones that are more prone to do that jump still.
Yeah.
And then we've heard that Doctor Strange wasn't going to be in this one, possibly going to be in Secret Wars. So I'm not surprised that he wasn't there.
Which means I'm not super surprised Wong wouldn't be there. I mean, he was with Shang-Chi, but...
I don't know. I think Wong is very separate because Doctor Strange, last we saw,
that's
in the end credit scene, he's in another universe.
That's so true.
Wong is still the Sorcerer Supreme. So there's definitely means for Wong to be here. And it feels like he's such an
especially
easy
when you have the Fantastic Four, which are going to be in New York. Probably, surely, that's where they usually are. I mean, I know they're not in the MCU right now, but where else could they go after them? And that pretty much solidifies that they are going to be dragged into the MCU.
Yeah.
At some point in their film.
Also interesting, it looks like Loki is the only magic user confirmed in our cast so far. Well, him and Doom.
They're battling it out.
A lot of green magic there.
Okay, I'm okay with that. That has the potential to look beautiful. Color in there? Hey, it's fine. Hey. Yeah, but a lot of discussion. Let us know if you think we left anyone out. There's some smaller characters.
Who did you not see in here that you wanted to see, and who are you excited about? Oh, that's a good question. Who are you most excited about on this list?
Out of the people confirmed, Ooh, that's a good question.
I would say some honorable mentions for me are Shang-Chi. I was literally cheering when I
Yes.
saw him. Yelena, super fun to see her confirmed. It's nice to see that Captain America's getting a chance to rock in an ensemble again. Same with Shuri as Black Panther getting another outing before she possibly switches
I agree.
the role to young T'Challa, who possibly is going to age up in this movie.
Maybe that's another one where we're like a minor character could still be in it if they decide to age him up. He could easily be left out as well. I don't think it really matters.
But I think if I had to choose my favorite from this team, it's probably going to be Namor.
Okay.
I think I really liked him in Wakanda Forever, and I'm very thrilled that he's going to have a chance to shine in an Avengers movie. I didn't expect him, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's going to be awesome.
Yep, there were a lot of moments for people. Everyone had that moment where even if they doubted the first hour or two, like, where's this going? Everyone by the end had that moment of, okay, they're doing something here.
I think Namor was the first moment where it's like, oh, we're going to get some wild ones in here.
And then Professor X or Beast, like one of those two had to be one of those moments.
Beast
for
was
people.
the first one because we both saw that and immediately texted, who is this? And we had to remind ourselves that he played the Beast.
My bad. I didn't know his name.
And to be fair, he's the only one I didn't recognize just by looking at it.
Yeah, I recognized, I think, everyone else's name.
So
I mixed up Mystique, but my bad.
But yeah, your pick. I gave my pick.
So I agree with all those honorable mentions you said. Same with Namor. He's going to be one of my honorable mentions. I'm in between just, like, in general, the Fantastic Four, or this is going to be, like, kind of silly, but I only shrieked for M'Baku, okay? I love him. I'm so excited to see. I think he's so cute and, like, well, I guess
funny.
Cute is not a...
He's killed, man.
Hot, okay? Hot.
Sometimes your baby girl is the ruler of an African nation
Yeah. And
who tried to kill its previous king.
He's big and bulky. I love it. Very excited for him. I think he was like the wild card for me that got me very excited. I was like, okay, they're gonna pull in different universes, and I don't know. But also the Fantastic Four. I'm so excited for that movie. I love the Fantastic Four, even though the last movie they had was not good. The first two were I would say solid. I like them better than you did.
I think they're very of their time.
Yeah. But I'm so excited. I love the casting for the MCU. Their trailer looks great. I'm so excited for the dynamic that they bring into the new Marvel world, the updated Marvel world. So, yeah.
And then I'm really interested to see how that...
And Cyclops. I love James Martin. I love Cyclops as a character. So,
okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm really interested to see what the Fantastic Four brings with them when they leave that world and come into this other world. How much of that aesthetic stays with them, and then will they go back? Do they stay? And then what does that look like?
A lot of potential there.
There's going to be a lot of changes with them in this movie. So there's a reason that the second chair was a Fantastic Four member.
Yeah.
And it was Mother.
Literally. So very excited.
So okay.
Are we gonna get a Franklin cameo? Isn't that his name?
Yes, that's
Are
one
we
of
gonna
their
get
kids.
a Franklin cameo as a baby? I don't know, man.
Gosh.
Franklin, the
turtle.
star of the show. Forget Fantastic Four. Let's call it Franklin. That's the
Fantastic
movie.
Franklin.
Fantastic Franklin, exactly. No,
The
that's so
Franktastic
funny.
Four.
Yeah, say that again. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Anyways, yeah, it was a good chat. I had a good day overall.
Yeah, this was a very exciting and it's weird to call it exciting when it lasted 5 hours of looking at chairs.
I know, but it
really makes the brain run wild with the possibilities.
Yes, and in a way, I'm almost glad that they left so many people out, because it's like they have to be leaving people out. There has to be more. Mm-hmm. There's no way, and I think maybe that's why. Maybe that's intentional.
Perhaps.
I'm excited. We'll definitely do a part 2 to this if they release a part 2 sometime. So, yeah. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know who you thought was left out, who you're most excited for that was confirmed. And what do you think they're going to do with this story? Do you think they're going to do an X-Men versus Avengers? Do you think Doom's going to be pulling the strings? Who's going to go after Loki? Or is Loki going to go after them?
Yeah.
What's going to happen there?
And where's Morbius?
Where's Craven? Where's Madam Web?
No kidding.
Where's Sydney Sweeney? Okay. I don't even remember her character name. Where is she?
No, that is
Julia or
interesting. There's
something?
actually, we didn't get any Andrew or Toby. There's a lot of other characters they could have brought into this, and they only pulled from the Fox X-Men. So that's interesting. Maybe that's another place it could expand if they do a part 2.
Yeah.
So that's also interesting.
I'm okay if they don't.
Oh, and
I
you
liked
know
their
what?
space.
They might have used this to prepare people for a second one. So when they do some of those, like Toby and Andrew, on part 2, everyone's going to be excited. It's going to take over even more because people are going to jump on it quicker because they know what's happening.
Yep.
That might be genius.
That could be good. Yeah. I do hope they do it.
They're
going to
make everyone look at chairs for another 5 hours.
I think I do think they need to do like a 5 to 7 minute instead of like 12 to 15.
It needs to move a little quicker.
Yeah. I'm okay if it's not like, a 2-minute video.
Sure.
I'd actually rather it not be a 2-minute video because it really worked for them drawing out that excitement. But yeah, 12 hours was a little long. It was a very popular discussion that, man, this was 5 hours, which I do think is a little silly. They expect people to watch it for 5 hours.
And then,
but
then
could just,
you did.
Yeah,
or
you did.
In any case,
Or
10.1 million people
you
did.
could just, if you're busy, just keep checking Twitter and then update your, it's not like you had to, but whatever.
Anyways.
People get FOMO. I understand.
Anyways, we've been trying to end this episode, so thank you guys.
Sorry.
Thank
We're
you guys for
yappers.
watching. Please give us a like, give us a subscribe or a follow, depending on how you're listening to us. And we have social media accounts on Twitter or X and on Instagram. So if you want to try and follow us and see what we're talking about or what we're watching, those are platforms you can find us on.
Yes, our @ is NSSN_pod for Not So Straight Nerds _ pod for podcast. There you go. So creative. I know. Thanks.
Anyways, I have been Luke.
And I'm Alicia.
And thank you for watching Not So Straight Nerds.